Sometimes the most heartfelt stories come from the unexpected corners of a wedding celebration, and the Groomsmen Last Dance on Hallmark Channel is exactly that kind of tale. This final chapter in the Hallmark Plus Groomsmen trilogy brings closure to a series that's been all about friendship, love, and the twists that come with both. But here's where it gets controversial. Does this last installment truly deliver the emotional payoff fans have been waiting for? Or does it fall short in some key areas? Let's dive in. The Groomsmen Last Dance stars Tyler Hynes as Jackson, a devoted single father who uproots his life to Italy to be closer to his daughter, Betty. Jackson's journey is one of balancing parenthood with his own personal growth, as he initially resists romantic distractions, especially from Gabriella, a captivating local woman. But when Betty calls him out on how his overprotectiveness is actually holding both of them back, Jackson begins to reconsider what it means to open his heart. If you've enjoyed the first two films in this trilogy, be warned, this is the final curtain, and it's bittersweet. Let's rewind to where it all began, the wedding of Danny's sister Hannah. This event was the spark for the entire series. It's where Pete met Chelsea, the storyline of the first movie, and where Danny discovered that his friend Zach was dating Nolan, the focus of the second film. And it's also where Jackson learns that Betty is moving to Italy with her mother, setting the stage for this final chapter. In The Groomsmen Last Dance, we finally peel back the layers on Jackson's story. We already knew he was an agent for influencers and a caring dad, but now we get a deeper look at his struggles. After Danny's wedding in Greece, Betty and her mom, Trisha, relocate to Italy. Jackson is heartbroken, but maintains a respectful co-parenting relationship with Trisha. When she has to leave Italy for a month due to work, Jackson sees this as a chance to spend quality time with Betty on the Italian coast. A welcome change from his increasingly unsatisfying career. Upon arriving, Jackson nearly hits Gabriella, a stunning Italian woman who immediately scolds him for being a distracted American tourist, driving while on his phone without paying attention. This classic meet-cute starts with friction, but as fate would have it, they keep bumping into each other. Gabriella isn't just a random local. She's Betty and Trisha's landlord, and runs a family restaurant with her mother, making her impossible to avoid. Jackson offers to help Gabriella with her restaurant's website and branding, leveraging his professional skills. This project becomes a welcome distraction, especially since Betty feels like her dad is hovering too much around her social life. Gabriella later cooks a meal for Jackson and Betty, a gesture that delights Betty, who's been secretly hoping to bring them closer. However, Jackson panics at the thought of getting emotionally involved and abruptly ends things before they can truly begin. The turning point comes during the town's masquerade festival, where Danny and Pete make a surprise appearance. Jackson shares a dance with a mysterious masked partner, obviously Gabriella, which reminds him that it's okay to feel love again. Despite his efforts to suppress his feelings, Jackson's resistance is challenged by Betty's candid honesty. She confronts him about his overprotectiveness, explaining that his constant presence makes her feel like a child and limits her friendships. Jackson defends his actions as protective, but Betty points out that he's also guarding his own heart too tightly. When Jackson and Gabriella visit her father's vineyard, where she hopes to negotiate a business merger between her parents' estranged restaurants, their car breaks down, forcing them to spend the night with her gruff, old-fashioned dad. The two fathers bond over their shared experiences of loving daughters and failed marriages. This encounter helps Jackson realize that if he doesn't open up emotionally, he risks becoming just like the hardened men before him. As the story unfolds, the mystery bride who has been narrating all three films finally reveals that Jackson and Gabriella have gotten together. We then cut back to the bride hiding out in an Irish pub where her groom arrives. The big reveal: the bride is Betty, now going by Elizabeth, and the groom is Milo, Danny's nephew. Milo had been awkwardly trying to win Betty's heart at Hannah's wedding, and it turns out he succeeded. The reason Betty ran away from her own wedding? She felt their love story lacked the grand, sweeping romance of the three groomsmen's tales. No dramatic meet-cute or globe-trotting adventures. But Milo challenges that notion, showing Betty an old arcade game where the high score is MLB, which she assumed was her uncle Danny's initials. Instead, Milo reveals it stands for Milo Loves Betty, proving their love story is just as meaningful, if quieter. They return to their wedding, surrounded by Jackson, Danny, and Pete. And finally tie the knot. If you're wondering what this series reminds you of, think of 4 weddings and a funeral, minus the funeral, spread out over multiple movies. This particular film also echoes Hallmark's 2 Scoops of Italy, where an American finds romance with a local in Italy, blending charming scenery with heartfelt connection. Our verdict: this trilogy has been a delightful journey, and I was especially eager for Jackson's story. While the romance between Jackson and Gabriella follows familiar Hallmark beats, I did feel a bit shortchanged by the absence of a big wedding scene for them. However, the real emotional core lies in the father-daughter relationship between Jackson and Betty, portrayed beautifully by Tyler Hynes and Chloe Raphael. Watching their bond grow felt genuine and touching. Jackson's protective nature is surprisingly endearing, and the chemistry between the actors brings warmth and authenticity. One minor quibble: the transition between young Betty, Chloe Raphael, and her older self, Elizabeth, Lily Dodsworth Evans, felt a bit jarring. Young Betty's tomboyish, mischievous spirit contrasts with Elizabeth's more reserved demeanor. While this makes narrative sense to keep the mystery alive, I wished Elizabeth had a bit more of that spark. Still, this didn't detract from the satisfying conclusion that ties up all loose ends and gives these beloved characters the happy endings they deserve. The final scene is a joyful celebration at Betty and Milo's wedding, set to the upbeat tune of Shake Your Groove Thing. Betty requested the song so Jackson, Pete, and Danny could perform their signature choreographed dance, a tradition dating back to their childhood camp days. Their lively performance brings the crowd together in a heartwarming moment that perfectly encapsulates the spirit of the series. Standout performance goes to Chloe Raphael, whose portrayal of young Betty is full of charm and nuance. She captures the exasperation of a teenager without slipping into cliches, making her a perfect addition to the Groomsmen crew. Memorable line alert: when Betty asks Jackson, "Remember all those times you walked me to school in Italy?" He replies with a smile, "Those were just practice runs," as he walks her down the aisle at her wedding. It's a simple moment packed with emotional resonance. So, should you stream The Groomsmen Last Dance or skip it? If you've enjoyed the previous films, this finale is a must-watch that wraps up the storylines with heart and humor. And if you haven't seen the earlier movies, consider binging all 3 for the full experience. But here's the question for you. Do you think the film's focus on family and subtle romance is more compelling than the typical grand love stories Hallmark is known for? Or do you miss the big sweeping gestures? Share your thoughts below. Let's get the conversation started.